Hello and welcome back to UCL Review. It's the big one, the final. We are rounding up the biggest game in European football. It has got to this moment. Joining me today, like myself, a slightly sunburnt Henry Hill. Ooh. How are you, Henry? Are you well? Did you enjoy the game?
You know what? It's a bank holiday weekend. The sun is back in the UK, and for people internationally, it's been one of the worst Mays you could possibly imagine. It's been miserable. The sun is back. The Champions League final, 2 English sides in Porto. You know what? Pretty special game. I'm very well. Dougie, how are you doing? You alright?
Yeah, no, I am good as well. Yeah, the beers were flowing today, and then watched what I thought was going to be quite a cagey Champions League final, and actually there was plenty to discuss.
Yes.
I mean, Henry, take it away.
You're so right. Well, listen, congratulations, Chelsea. They've won their second Champions League at the third attempt after beating Manchester City 1-0, thanks to a goal from their record signing, Kai Havertz. What a moment for him. And you know what? I think Dougie and I, we've got to hold our hands up. If anyone who watched Continental Club this week will know we all, McCubbin included, back City for the win. But completely fair play to Chelsea. Came in as underdogs, but just absolutely dominated this game, quite frankly. You know, Tuchel secured his third successive victory over Pep Guardiola. He's got his number, hasn't he? And I think the big thing going into this game was the team selections, because some worrying signs. It set it up to be quite an explosive game, really, because if we look at what City did, they decided to go about either Rodri or Fernandinho, instead starting Bernardo Silva, Gundogan and sort of Phil Foden in central midfield. And he also started Sterling as well. He'd only played 30 minutes of City's last 5 Champions League matches. So gave him the nod up front, as we'll see. Probably didn't pay off. Meanwhile, for Thomas Tuchel, he delighted for him. He was able to get back Edouard Mendy in goal, N'Golo Kante, and managed to go for Havertz over Pulisic as well, which was an interesting decision to start him alongside Timo Werner. But I mean, as Dougie, I'm sure you'll delve into a bit later, all completely justified decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, what N'Golo Kante, I'm just going to stop saying, what a player, what an unbelievable performance, and just amazing. Bossed that Champions League final. It was just like another game for him. Really, stunning performance from the Frenchman there. And you know what, the first half was brilliant. I wasn't sure what kind of game we were going to see before the team sheets came out, but it was quite explosive, very end-to-end. City started well, dominating the early moments of possession, and Sterling got in behind the defence, but I think Reece James had a brilliant game, got him to put him off. Yeah, and then 2 minutes later, John Stones failed to clear, allowing for Havertz to cross to Werner, who, I mean, poor old Timo Werner, kind of summarised his season, didn't it? Sort of just went to shoot, his heel, hoofed it up. I got a bit of stick in the comments for Continental Club for saying, maybe being slightly critical of Timo Werner. Well, we saw the best and worst of him again tonight. He had another chance as well, sort of in that game. Then go down the other end, and I think one of the tackles of the game, I mean, if you love defensive football, I think this game was fascinating. Do you know, from a Chelsea perspective, I thought they were phenomenal at the back. Really, really impressive stuff. And that was sort of glorified by this Rudiger challenge on Phil Foden, as it looked destined to score, sort of hounding down on Edouard Mendy, but Rudiger got in there to block. It was really brilliant. And then even Thiago Silva forced off in the first half there. Christensen came on, hasn't appeared in their final 3 league games with an injury, and I thought Christensen was amazing. He really was.
He really was.
He stepped up to the plate. Thiago Silva looked devastated to go off, but Christensen came on and really sort of earned his stripes in that game. I mean, magnificent performance from the Danish man there. And then if we get to the goal, 42 minutes, Chelsea had the lead, and a huge amount of credit has to go to that Mason Mount pass. Just perfectly weighted through the middle. Sort of a really surprising gap in City's defence. Don't know how it came to that. Zinchenko caught sort of mapping Havertz, but I think Zinchenko was surprised to see kind of what happened there. And Havertz, it's been an interesting season, been a difficult campaign for him at moments, but this is what he was there for. This is what he was signed for. Composed himself, just about rounded Ederson and tucked it into the empty net, becoming just the 3rd Chelsea player to score in a UCL final, behind big names in Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba. Our lovely interview at the end with Azpilicueta and Havertz there, as he's showing all that kind of captain leadership and sort of silencing everyone that had doubted Havertz, and you just get the feeling that he's going to go on here and really perform, don't you? And it's his first Champions League goal as well, so to do it in a final, What a moment for him as well. XG at half-time read at 1 to 0.23 in Chelsea's favour. City only had 3 shots with 1 on target at this stage. And things got worse at City as De Bruyne was forced off with a neck. So Henry, we're not quite sure. It looked like he sort of was concussed heavily after 58 minutes. Quite a clinical shoulder barge from Antonio Rudiger. But you know what? A lot of people are going to criticise that. The game wasn't won. The game was won before that, in my opinion. City just look a little bit lost.
And De Bruyne was struggling, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, the thing is, if you had to name the 5 best players in this game, they're all Chelsea players. All
Absolutely.
Chelsea players. Not. I mean, you'll go into the individual performances, but not a single one really showed up. It was difficult. I mean, even Pulisic came closer to scoring when he came on in 65 minutes, replacing Timo Werner. Missed a great chance there, didn't he? And City had 2 shots between the 45-minute and the 80-minute mark, both worth a 0.05 XG combined. So that is just dismal, isn't it? Really had that last effort at the end from Riyad Mahrez, sort of handing him out moments, trying to see what was going to go on there. But, this remarkable European campaign for Chelsea. They only lost 1 of their last 13 games, only conceded 4 goals. It caps an incredible turnaround for the fortunes of since Thomas Tuchel arrived. I think that FA Cup defeat is all but forgotten. Congratulations to him, but also congratulations to Frank Lampard, who'll be sitting at home, maybe raising a glass himself there, because he really deserves credit for what they achieved as well. But I mean, Dougie, I want to give a huge amount of credit to Chelsea for their performance, because I think they were just exceptional. But City really do have to take a step back and reevaluate this, because they've been so dominant in finals over the last few years, but they just didn't turn up today, did they?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long, hard few days for Man City, and they can't really have that many excuses as well. They had the league wrapped up weeks ago. They, changed a lot of their players. A lot of their players came in fresh, whereas Chelsea obviously had the FA Cup final. They had big games against Leicester, Arsenal, Aston Villa in the league. So Chelsea had the much more condensed schedule recently. But as you say, Man City just didn't really turn up. They struggled to replicate the form that had seen them ease past Gladbach, get through some tricky moments against Dortmund and PSG. But they were deservedly in the final. They hadn't lost up to this point. They were unbeaten going into this game, but it just didn't really happen for them. And I think Pep's going to come in for some criticism over his selection. I mean, we talked about the gap in Man City's defence, but also Gundogan was nowhere near Mount as he was playing that ball through to Havertz for the goal. Maybe Rodri or Fernandinho would have been. It's if, buts and maybes, but you feel like once again in a big game, Pep Guardiola is going to be criticised over his selection. And he's now lost just his second of 16 finals he's appeared in, and his first since the 2011 Copa del Rey final against Jose Mourinho's Real Madrid. So they were understandably gone into this game as massive favourites. They are way ahead of Chelsea in their development plan. They've dominated domestically for the last few years. Yes, they don't have that much Champions League experience in the latter stages, but this was a really shocking performance from a side that have dominated the Premier League, winning 3 of the last 4 Premier League campaigns. They only had 7 shots with 1 on target all game. Chelsea not a lot better with 8 and 2, but I thought Chelsea controlled it really effectively. Obviously they weren't going to dominate possession, but they more than had their own. They caused them a lot of problems on the break as well. And City's big players, the ones that you want to turn up in the big finals, were pretty much anonymous. Sterling, 0 key passes, 0 dribbles, 3 shots, only got 1 of those on target. De Bruyne created 1 chance, he had 1 dribble but didn't have a single shot. Their XG for their entire game was 0.52, which was their lowest that they created in any game this season. So it does just go to show, they were just nowhere to be seen in this game. For Chelsea, I thought Reece James was absolutely outstanding at right wing back against Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
Has to go to the Euros now. There is no debate about it. I don't know how you could not take him. I feel like it's bad news for Trent. I would take Trent, but I think Southgate's probably going to take Trippier over Trent. I can just see it happening. And James is 100% going on that trip now. Also, alongside him, Rudiger was outstanding on the left of that back 3 as well. 1 tackle, 3 clearances, 3 aerial duels. Havertz played incredibly well as well, led the line really well. Very unselfish player. Lovely touches as well. Really come into his own in the last few months, Kai Havertz, after a really difficult spell, joining a new country. Getting COVID at 21, not being able to go back and see his family. Absolutely delighted for him that he turned up in this big game. His stats look like this. He completed 3 tackles, 2 dribbles, 2 aerial duels, 2 key passes, 1 shot and 1 goal. Only needed the 1 shot. Man of the match though, without doubt, N'Golo Kante. 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 aerial duels. How is that possible when he's 5'2"? 2 dribbles, 1 key pass, and 1 shot. I put it on Twitter after the game, and I was interested to see how many people agreed or disagreed with me. I think he's now got to be in the mix for greatest Premier League midfielder of all time. You know, alongside the Gerrards, Lampards, Keane, Vieiras. I just don't really see an argument why not. He's been absolutely outstanding for 5 years now. Probably been the outstanding player of the decade in the Premier League. And now he's got his hands on a Champions League trophy to go with the World Cup as well. I think it's a pretty strong argument. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. Up next, so despite obviously an excellent season, City, have question marks over their forward areas. Once again in this game, didn't really create enough chances, didn't have a lethal finisher. That some of their attacks seem to peter out fairly easily without that focal point. They'll go in for a striker this summer. They also scored 19 fewer league goals than in 2019-20, so they somewhat got away with that sort of number 9 this year. As for Chelsea, they were second from Tuchel's arrival across his 18 league games, 5 points off City in that time. So I feel like there's going to be a title challenge next year. It could potentially be a 3-way battle. With Liverpool, you expect to be much improved with all their first team players back as well. And Man United, I'm sure, will make some signings this summer as well. So it's set to be a great, Premier League campaign next time. I mean, Henry, it's a kind of difficult question. I was going to ask, what do you want to give more credit to? Tuchel for outclassing and outthinking Pep Guardiola. Do you blame Pep Guardiola, or is it more on the City players?
A little bit. I think to not play someone like Fernandinho in the midfield was a big mistake, personally. I think it's not only his leadership in there, just the calm and composure. They did seem overrun, because if you looked at the Chelsea lineup, it did look quite conservative. It only looked like they had 3 attackers really principally on the pitch. Look more set up to kind of dampen any attempts from Manchester City. But the reality was that it was Chelsea that most of the first half that kept taking it to City and looked like the team most likely to score. So yeah, I do think that Guardiola will deserve a bit of criticism for that. But at the same time, the big players need to take a long hard look at themselves. Sterling in particular, Mahrez as well. Neither of them were present at all throughout that game. Once again, great credit has to go to the fullbacks, Chilwell and Reece James. You highlighted Reece James there. I completely agree with you. I think after that performance, he fully deserves a place in that England squad. And Ben Chilwell's putting a massive shout to be starting that first game against Croatia as well after that kind of effort. So yeah, I think they deserve credit. But the City players, I'm just shocked that that they almost look so caught in the headlights in this match as well, after we've seen them sort of blitz teams in Carabao Cup's a different competition, but in many of the finals that they come up against, they never look like it's been close almost in certain years. So yeah, I'm really shocked at that. But I mean, just a quick note on the Manchester City transfers. What do you think they will do as a reactionary measure to this? Because I think the idea of going and spending 120 million on a Kane figure was almost a luxury item, but now they'll have something else to play for. Now they've got another sort of determined goal to try and achieve. So what do you think City are going to go and do this summer?
I think they'll definitely bring in a striker. I'd be very surprised if it was Harry Kane, though. I just think that fee is just far too large for someone who's 20. Is he 28, Harry Kane? I just can't see City doing that. Personally, I think they're more likely to go for a Lukaku or maybe even Andre Silva or someone like that. I just don't think many clubs... City have been quite streetwise with their transfers over the last few years. Rarely spend over, is it about 65 million is their club record? Yeah. I'd be surprised if they doubled that for Harry Kane. Daniel Levy is such a shrewd negotiator. I can't really imagine Harry Kane leaving this summer. So that will be interesting as well. Obviously, Chelsea are interested in Harry Kane as well, but they're not going to get their hands on him. Levy, there's not a single hope in hell that he's going to sell him to Chelsea. He completely sort of... refused to sell Luka Modric to Chelsea a few years ago as well, so there's no love lost between those two parties. So it's going to be a fascinating summer, but massive credit to Chelsea. I thought they were the dominant side. They deserved to win. They got their second Champions League after a remarkable turnaround under Thomas Tuchel. And you're perfectly right to give a bit of credit to Frank Lampard as well for setting up this team so well in the Champions League, at least, going unbeaten through that group stage. That 4-0 thrashing of Sevilla. There were some great results in there as well. So that's UCL Review for another year, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching it, joining me and McCarbs, Henry, Chris, I think we've had on as well, James Wayne. Yeah, I know it hasn't been ideal watching us in our bedrooms every week, but hopefully next year we will be back in a studio for when the Champions League returns and Chelsea look to retain the title. Henry, if they've enjoyed watching this, what should they go and watch now?
Get over to Sunday Vibes, go on Football Daily, go and check out there. I think you're on it as well, with Joe and Chris looking at that England team. So yeah, maybe after today's game. You'll be able to make your own mind up about the England team there. So yeah, go check out Sunday Vibes.
Perfect. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.